Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. This week, we're jumping back to the conference we started with. It's the OAC. We're going to sit down with head coach Andy Waddle from Marietta, going into his 11th season as head coach. 17, 18, 19, and 22, all winning seasons. And it's interesting, when I was playing, the Marietta-Bethany game was always kind of it was a scrimmage to see where you were. I'm going to ask Coach where he thinks those two teams rank, and are they still doing that scrimmage? But for those of you that are listening on Spotify, make sure you hit the notification, the little bell notification thing. Don't miss an episode. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button, and you can follow us on all the social medias. That's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. The only one that's different is the Instagram page. That's dingo_talk. But without further ado, let's find out about Marietta and Coach Waddle. What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest this week is head football coach at Marietta College, Coach Andy Waddle. Coach, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
It's an interesting path that you coaches take, and we're going to take you down. We're going to take you back in the time machine and bring you back forward. So in 1997, why did you decide that Wittenberg was where you belonged?
I didn't. So I didn't go to Wittenberg in 1997. I showed up at Wittenberg in 2000. So Wittenberg didn't recruit. Wittenberg didn't recruit me in 1997. I went to the University of Findlay, and I was fortunate enough at the University of Findlay to win an NAIA national championship. I redshirted. Didn't play a snap like most of us that were freshmen that year. They were transitioning from NAIA to Division II, and I redshirted and played the whole year. Had a great year. Really got a lot better as a player. I mean, I came from a really small high school where I don't know if I exactly knew what it took to be a college football player, but I had some skill sets that I had to hone, and I got to hone them that year. And 1998, I started every game in the GLIAC. It was our first year in the GLIAC. Started every game, we weren't near the team that we were the year before. We didn't have probably quite as talented. Probably didn't have quite as talented of a team, and then also didn't play the same schedule. I mean, we played in the GLIAC, right? So it was a lot taller of a task. But I was fortunate enough to start every game. We went 5-5 that year. A lot of growing pains for me as a first-year starter. In 1999, we had a head coaching change. I went back in 1999 and was going to all intentions of playing. On the last day of training camp, I had a season-ending injury. I ended up having 3 surgeries that off season, and kind of like that was the layout, and so it was the last day of training camp. We started school that, we practiced on Saturday. I got the news, on Sunday it was going to be a multiple surgery deal. Went to class on Monday, and then, kind of met with the doctor that evening, tried to get a second opinion, and got a second opinion from the Ohio State doctors. And they said, yeah, it's a season ender, buddy, and multiple surgeries ahead of you. So I took the semester off and had multiple surgeries, came back. We had a new head coach, kind of went through, spring practice. And I think, honestly, this was like back before the transfer portal. So like, I had like lots of reasons why, at the time, like maybe things would have been the way that they were. I had lots of reasons to get back home and lots of things for me. But I think that, early in the semester, I think that they were trying to Deion Sanders me, right? Like we got another guy that we want to play corner, and he's not white from Greenon High School, right? And I look back and I think like holy cow, doing, I'll never forget this, right? So I showed up to a meeting, right? We showed up to a meeting and our coach was really adamant that you had to be early. Mm-hmm. And so the meeting started at 3:00 and I showed up at 2:55. And at 2:55, he'd already started the meeting. I was the last guy in the meeting. He said, all right, well, you owe me, 500 up downs. We started at 3:50. I said, well, the meeting started at 3:00. And he said, hey, everybody was here. You're supposed to be the leader. You're going to lead us. So I did the 500 up downs, but honestly, I think looking back, they were but that really didn't have the biggest thing to do with it. I lost both my grandparents, both my grandfathers that off season as well. And I hadn't been with the team the year before. So but I was on scholarship still. And I grew up on a family farm, and my dad was a farmer, and my grandpa passed away, and Wittenberg was closed. And I thought maybe I could help out my parents and be, a little closer to home and help with the farm. So that led me to kind of reaching out to Wittenberg and going there. And I was there and fortunate, I was able to play 3 seasons at Wittenberg, and, so 5 seasons altogether, 6 training camps, 5 seasons altogether, and had an awesome career at Wittenberg. And it was a good decision for me, and it was at the right time. And, I tell people all the time, I think so often recruits want to end up at the highest level that they can play at. And I think that you want to end up at the place where you can be important and impactful. And at Findlay, even though I was a starter, I was like a guy that they were, trying to replace. And I think that they thought that they could do better. And actually, I think as I went through that spring season, I think back about that. And I remember meeting with Coach Keys, and he was really pretty complimentary of me on, on my way out the door. Really complimentary. I don't think he wanted to see me go because I worked so hard. Mm-hmm. But I was going to be a hard-working guy at Findlay that was, kind of in a role, maybe a starter, but not a guy that you want to major in, right? But you can get by with him. And at Wittenberg, I got to go there and I got to be a really good player on some really good teams and have a really great experience. And I think it was, a great move for me, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Really proud of my time at Wittenberg, and we did some awesome things at Wittenberg. And so it just kind of happened that way. I mean, when I started reaching back out to people, that had recruited me, nobody was interested anymore. I was recruited by everybody, but I wasn't recruited by Wittenberg, but Wittenberg was in my hometown, and and they were interested at that point in time. So that's how it ended up being a Tiger.
Well, so let's unpack a couple of those things. So first, does your redshirting your first year, does that help you with players that maybe are in that same boat that you can identify as a coach? Like, hey, you got some talent, but we want to get you in the weight room. We want to get you on the field. We want to give you that time to learn. And then we're going to bring you on the field next year and you're going to hit the ground running. Does that help you now?
Hey, listen, I'm going to tell you what, Carlo, I don't know. I think you've talked to a lot of coaches from what I've heard. And I think any coach that would give you a truth serum, the difference between a freshman and a sophomore is infinite. And they're the same person, right? But they don't know the terminology. They don't know the people. They don't know where to line up. They don't know the drills. They don't know the play. I mean, there's so many things that they don't know, right? And we don't know them. So we're all trying to figure this thing out. And we have 3 weeks from the time they show up till we're playing a game. So it's tough, brother. It's tough, man. And I always tell our guys, man, the difference between a freshman and a sophomore is infinite. And that's the biggest challenge that they'll go through in their career probably is getting from that freshman year to the sophomore year. So, I can empathize with them. I could tell them, hey, listen, I didn't play a snap when I was a freshman. I mean, but what I did do, I lined up every day against an All-American. And that's true, and I took great pride on being on the scout team. And, the offensive coordinator so at Witt, I played safety. At Findlay, I played corner. And when I went to Wittenberg, I played, my first game, I broke an NCAA record for block punts in a game. And Yeah, right. You know, they didn't block me, so like I was coming scot-free, and I broke the NCAA record, so I got all this attention, right? You know, and I played a little bit on defense, played on the goal line, and then I played a little bit in some other factions, whatnot. The next week, so in training camp, I had started at corner, and they moved me to safety. We had two really kind of established, and they were awesome players. I mean, both were better than me. So they were awesome players. In fact, like I think back, I started at Findlay, right? These guys were at Wittenberg, and I remember always thinking, like, why in the world did Findlay offer me instead of offering these guys, right? You know, so they were awesome players, and they started in front of me. They were a little bit more, I don't want to say weak, but a little bit more wide open at safety. So about halfway through training camp, they moved me to safety, and so I finished that training camp at safety and didn't start in that first game, but then, you know, broke an NCAA record. So I was all over, you know, every media outlet that you could do, right? You know, and then the next week we had an injury at corner. And so I started at corner and had a really good game at corner. And then our guy got back. I moved to safety. I started most of the rest of the season at safety, a little bit at nickel. And then the next year I played safety, and then my final year, right? You know, I played the first 7 games at safety. In that week of practice, we had 2 guys go down, right? You know, so one guy left the team and on a Tuesday for personal reasons, and then it was a starting corner, and then the backup corner was actually a guy named Mike Freeman. Mike Freeman is Marcus Freeman. Do you know Marcus Freeman? The head coach at Notre Dame, right? Marcus Freeman's older brother was Mike Freeman, and Mike was a teammate of mine. And on Thursday practice, we finished practice with a 2-minute drill. Marcus tears his ACL, and on Friday, or not Marcus, Mike tears his ACL, and then Marcus was in high school at that point in time. So, but Mike tears his ACL, and on they said, Andy, you're moving to corner. And I finished my final year, the final 5 games of the season at corner. So I played both. But when I was at Findlay, I played corner. And every day I would line up, and they would tell me to follow Jason Hamby, who was from Cedarville, Ohio. I grew up 7 miles away from Cedarville, Ohio. So we were like, you know, hometown neighbors, 2 hours away. Jason was an All-American at Findlay. He was a great player, man. And they ran the wishbone. They only had 1 wide receiver out there, right? You know, and I got the task of guarding him in practice every day, and I got better. I mean, like, flat out, I got better. And we went into that spring season, and we played a full spring game, and I did some really good things in the spring game. And I never forget, you know, Don Akers, who's the defensive coordinator at the time, you know, came up to me and was like, man, you made me feel a lot better out there today. I know that I don't have to go out and get a junior college transfer, right? You know, I think that's what they were thinking they were going to have to do, but I had gotten better throughout that year, and so yes, I relate to the player who's not playing, but I also, you know, I think that if you're going to be a good football player, man, own your craft, love what you do it every day, show up and work, and let yourself get better, and good things will come. So I can have that talk with people if they want to hear it, right? You know, but it's certainly something that I think a lot of players go through, myself included.
Now, how did, after football ends for you, why the coaching bug? Because you graduate with a sociology degree. So why where was it? You just weren't ready to walk away from the game, or you wanted to?
What are you supposed to do with a sociology degree, Carlo? You know, so I got into sociology because I wanted to be a coach, right? You know, so I was like trying to figure out how to like manipulate, you know, people and groups and be a part of that, right? Study how they all worked, and I really loved my classes, right? You know, because I always related it like right back to, and we read like Karl Marx and Max Weber and all that stuff. And the proletariats and the bourgeoisies, and I'll never forget that stuff, right? You know, but it was all about like culture. It was all about culture building and you know, kind of the way that people followed each other. So I wanted to be a coach. I never forget, you know, when I was playing, right, Kelly Cummings, who's the head coach at Ohio Dominican, was our defensive coordinator. I would show up into Kelly's office, and come up with all the different kinds of schemes and stuff. And I think he half thought I was as crazy and half thought I think I was a genius, right? So Kelly really pushed me to say, hey, listen, this is what you should do, and I think he pushed Joe Fincham and those guys really helped me out and helped me go get my first opportunity with Chris Woods, who was a former assistant coach at Wittenberg, who was then the head coach at Mansfield University in Mansfield, Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people when I'm recruiting, I'm like, right, you think that we're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, like when I went to Mansfield, I drove to the middle of nowhere. And when I got there, I had to keep going, right? That's the truth, right? And I'll never forget, right? When I showed up at Mansfield, Chris says, I said, well, what do we sell these guys, Coach? What do we sell them? He's like, are you kidding me? And I was like, no, what's the sale here, right? And he's like, go outside the night, right? And so I went outside that night. And he's like, tell me what you see. I said, Coach, I didn't see anything. So you look up at the stars, the prettiest stars in all of Pennsylvania. And so we sold them the stars, man, and that's what we had to offer. And it was a good sell for those guys, and we had a great season. And when I went to Mansfield, let me tell you, I went to Mansfield and Mansfield had not had a winning season since 1975. It was 2003. And we worked really hard. And I never forget, like when I showed up there, Chris said he thought we could be good. And he got me believing, right? I believed. I thought we were going to be awesome. I remember showing up and kind of being there for the first week and meet some people and say, oh, I'm a new assistant football coach. And they were like, yeah, good luck, buddy. I mean, it was kind of the laughing stock of the PSAC at the time. Mm-hmm. And we started out that year 6-0. And they hadn't had a winning season since 1975. And I never forget that game. We were 6-0. It was homecoming. We played Cal, PA. It was a packed stadium. And when we kicked off, there was a line. I mean, our press box wasn't very big. I mean, like the stands weren't very big. We were on top of the press box. It wasn't very big. It was a crow's nest. It was wide open. But I could see out to the end of I could see the line, and I couldn't see to the end of the line. It was pretty cool. And at the end of the game, man, the fans were chanting 6-0. And we ended up breaking the school record for wins that year. And I remember thinking, like, I never want to do anything else for the rest of my life. And it was an awesome, awesome experience. I'd always loved football. I knew I always loved football. But I knew, and that day, I loved coaching, and I was excited to get in coaching. And those guys, I mean, they were the epitome of what you want to coach, man, because they didn't care about any of the things that so many of us care, and I probably cared about it too, right? They didn't care about who got the touches, they didn't care about who got the tackles, who got the awards. They just wanted to win. I think that happened because they never won. Yeah. And when you never won and you start out the year 6-0, it's pretty remarkable. And those guys just wanted to win. We had a running back who was named Pooh Bear McNeil. He was a freshman. Pooh Bear ends up winning the job. And so we have this other running back who, partway through the season, is like one of the best athletes on the team. I coached the secondary that year. Yeah. And they said, hey, what do you think about taking him and making him a corner? So we took him and made him a corner, and we moved Geishauser, who was our corner, to nickel, and none of those guys cared about that stuff. They just wanted to win, and it was awesome. And it was what you dream about as a coach. It's what you dream about as a player. It was an amazing season, and I didn't make any money, but it was a perfect experience for me at that time, and led me into where I am today.
Now, why the choice? Was there an option to stay at Wittenberg and come on as a GA, and you just wanted to get away? Okay. And then
Wittenberg was gonna have me be like the assistant DB coach or whatever. I was and pay me like a couple grand. I was the DB coach at Mansfield. I was not the assistant. I was the DB coach, and at Wittenberg I was going to be like an assistant to somebody else. That year is crazy. We had 6 guys on staff. We had 7 day one, and then we got through that first day of meetings and a guy resigned. So we had 6 guys, and we had a part-time volunteer who had been a former player. He'd had some things go wrong in his life and kind of was trying to get things straight. They brought him back in. He was a part-time volunteer. He helped Chris Woods, who was the head coach. Chris ran the defense and was linebackers. And Noise Lawton was his name. And Noise was, Coach Woods's kind of gopher a little bit. Noise ran the scout team. So I got to be the DB coach. I was one of 6 that was in the office every day. And so it was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, makes sense. So after that first year, you moved down to Maryville College in Tennessee. Why the move?
Yeah, so Chris got a job, right? And Chris left and went to Stonehill. And I'll never forget, like, Chris brought us all in, right? We got the phone call. I was on the road recruiting, got the phone call. I come back into the office, right? So he sits us all down, like, so we're in there. It was the next day. He's like, hey, come in the next morning, off the road, whatever. So we're all there. And he said, well, I've been offered, I've interviewed for a couple of jobs. Mm-hmm. And if Bryant offers me the job, right, we're all going to Bryant. And if Stonehill has offered me the job. If Bryant doesn't offer me the job today, then whatever. I'm going to Stonehill. The problem with Stonehill is, I can't take anybody with me, at least not right now. And, at the end of it, he said, hey, listen, I think I'm going to be able to bring you with me if you want to go. It's in Boston, but it'll probably be closer to the season. And just trying to figure out how to live in Boston, right? And I'm from a small town, right? So Boston was a little bit intimidating. I mean, I'm like, Columbus is a big city to me, but Boston, wow. And so anyway, as I went through it, right, I worked with a guy named Graham Johnson. Graham Johnson had been a grad assistant at the University of Tennessee. Maryville's right outside of the University of Tennessee. So I shared an office with Graham, and Graham's telling me, this thing's on a football scoop. I didn't even know what the football scoop was, right? He said, there's a job at Maryville. I think you should put in for it. So I put in for it, didn't hear anything for 2 months. Chris got the job, said I should put it, whatever. So we went through all that. And then eventually Fred Riley, who's the offensive coordinator, called me, kind of ran me through some steps, whatever. And then I went down and interviewed with Tony Aruli. And before I got back home, they had offered me the job. And, it was I didn't know what I was doing, right? So I took the job. I think it was probably a good move for me. Tony's been awesome in my life. He's been really an instrumental character, good friend, good mentor, good man. It was really hard on me. Holy cow, really hard on me when I was in that position. And so Tony was the head coach. He ran the defense. Tony was the defensive coordinator, the linebacker coach. I was the secondary coach. Now, like, Tony would tell you now that, like, I was like the pseudo defensive coordinator. At the time, I don't know if I felt that way, right? But he'll tell you that now, right? So, but what I did do was I broke down every single game by myself, and I never forget. I didn't know what the heck, offensive plays. I didn't do that. Chris did all that. Like, we did it as a staff, whatever. I went to Maryville. I did it all by myself, and I had to draw them. I had to draw every single play on a card, right? So a real small index card. Do every single play on the small index card. And I never forget, like, I drew the quarterback, fronting out instead of reversing out. Oh man, brother, that front out was a big difference than that reverse out, right? So I heard about that, but I ended up kind of figuring it out. And I had a great book. Chris did an awesome job with our playbook at Mansfield. And so I looked at the playbook at Mansfield, and it kind of learned how you blocked power and how you blocked counter and how inside zone. I learned all this stuff right on the fly because I was too afraid to ask Tony how, what these plays were. Yeah. So I looked into the playbook. I figured it out, right? I drew all these cards. I did that all year long. I mean, it was like really a pretty normal night for me to be in there on Sunday night until 3:30 in the morning and back at 7. And, just breaking the whole game down by myself. But it was an awesome experience, man. And I think back about it, and it was tough, brother.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it was tough. But I'm always like the kind of guy that's like, if it's not breaking me, it's making me stronger, right? And it certainly didn't break me, made me stronger. I learned so much football that year. I mean, so much football. I learned a lot at Mansfield. Chris Woods is the smartest football coach that I've ever worked with, that I've ever known. He's a genius. Tony's a great football coach, but I mean, I just I was Tony's number 2 guy on defense, and I learned so much that year that I really think it set me up to be able to be successful, later in my career. And I think sometimes in life, young people, they want it easy. We all want our free time, our fun time, or all that stuff. But early in your career, man, you just learn to grind. Learn to grind and grind it out. Surround yourself with people that are going to teach you and push you and expect a lot out of you. And then as you go forward, you'll be thankful for those experiences that you had.
Now, what was the biggest difference between D2 Mansfield and D3 Maryville? Because what I've been told from the other coaches I've talked to is where you can tell the difference between D1, D2, and D3 is the beef. Right in the middle of the field, you can tell there's 5 guys, 5 offensive linemen, 4 defensive linemen, and that's where you really see the difference in the players.
Yeah. At Wittenberg, when I was at Wittenberg, I was there for 3 years as a player. And we won 33 games. We beat the preseason number 1 ranked team in the country in Hardin Simmons, which at the time, was the big boy in their conference, and they're in the same conference as Mary Hardin Baylor. We played Mount Union in a tough game. We played Mount Union where we kind of got blown out.
Yeah.
We played some great games, and I played at Findlay.
Yeah.
And I went to Wittenberg. When I was at Findlay, we were 5-5. When I went to Wittenberg, we were 12-1. There were absolutely 100% guys on the Wittenberg team that would have started at Findlay. 100%. 100%. But they were 5-5. We were 12-1, right? And I think where you noticed it, though, it's the O-line, D-line. I mean, they're just bigger. They're bigger. I mean, and I don't want to take anything away from those guys that were skill players at those Division II schools, because they're good players too. But there were some awesome players that I played with, some awesome players that I've coached. But yeah, you notice it in the size. I mean, and it is what it is. You're checking boxes, man. The higher up in levels that you go, Ohio State, it doesn't matter how awesome the guy is. They're not taking a 6'1" center.
No.
There's not happening, or 6'1". Maybe you take a 6'1" center. I doubt it. They're definitely not taking a 6'1" tackle. All right.
No.
There's no way. Right. So you're just checking boxes, man. And I get it, because there's so many people out there, those guys but as you go down in levels, right, the boxes that you're checking are different, right? And I think that for us, we were still checking boxes. But they're on academics, they're on character, they're on those things, and not that they don't do that at Ohio State, because they absolutely do. But the best player I ever coached was probably 5'6", right? I can take two awesome players that I've coached, awesome players that were 5'6", and they aren't ended up on Division I rosters because they're 5'6". And that's Pooh Bear McNeil and Brad McKinley. And those 2 guys were man, they were awesome players, and made guys around them awesome. But at Division II, they're still checking some boxes. They still want the 6'4" tackles, 6'5" tackles. So you have more beef. And when you have that, you have a little bit more that you can work with. And still on the D line's bigger, but that's where you notice it for sure.
So after the 2004 season, why the choice to go home?
Well, I mean, it was more money. and better program, and it was home. No, I mean home by both like
home and
where I played. Yeah, and my parents lived from Wittenberg, 15, 20 minutes from Wittenberg. So it was, a lot of people that I was really familiar with. A great opportunity to be, on what I think it's been one of the premier programs in Division III football for a long time, and where I played, and a lot of familiarity. So really easy decision. I mean, like even Tony Aruli, who really wanted to keep me and tried really hard to keep me. I mean, really understood why I took that job. It was, ironically, I had interviewed about a week before at Randolph-Macon, and Pedro Aruza had offered me the job at Randolph-Macon, but he said, I know the Wittenberg job open. Are you going to take this job, or do you want to interview for the Wittenberg job? And it wasn't like an ultimatum, but it was kind of an ultimatum.
Okay.
And I think if I would have taken the job, it would have been mine. But if I didn't take the job, he was going to go and interview other people, and I said, I'd like to interview for it. And he said, Andy, man, I get it, no problem. Want to wish you luck. And it was not like that, right? But he was really respectful. Pedro's, I don't have a great, I don't talk to Pedro Aruza, but I had a great experience on that interview. I know a lot of people that really know Pedro Aruza and say amazing things about him. Awesome experience. He went in a different direction, and I got the job at Wittenberg. And so I could have gone a couple different places, right? But Wittenberg was home. It was a great program, and it was a great thing for me at that time of my life.
Well, so you go into Wittenberg, you're the DB coach. A year later, you go into the defensive coordinator position. Now, when you're the D coordinator? Now, I've asked offensive-minded coaches this question, but I've not really got to talk to the defensive guys. Is it the same as the offensive coordinator, where those first, I don't know, what is it, 10 plays on offense? Most teams, it's a 10-play script.
Script them.
Do you script on defense as well, or is it let it come to you and start mixing and matching?
Yeah. I've never heard of anybody scripting on defense. Okay. You may have a third down play that you're going to go to when it gets to that situation, or a fourth down play. And maybe people do. I don't know. But so Chris Woods, telling you, Chris Woods is brilliant, right? And he always did everything off of personnel. So we're always playing behind what the offense is going to do. So if you come out in 10 personnel, we're going to have a different play than if you come out in 11 personnel versus 12 personnel. And if you're at the minus 30-yard line, we're in a different mindset than if you're at the plus 40-yard line. Okay, so we don't know going into the game where you're getting the ball. We don't know what personnel you're coming out in. So what we do is what we did all the way. Chris Woods did this. Tony did something different. Kelly Cummings did something different. I kind of went back to what Chris did, and we really script out situations. So we have all the situations kind of down, right? So first and 10 or P and 10. P and 10 is the start of a series. And that's a little different than when you're in the series. Second medium, second long, second short, third, and then all the different personnel groups, where you're at in the field, whatever. We have multiple plays, multiple front, or maybe not multiple fronts, but multiple calls. Could be multiple fronts, multiple calls, coverages, blitzes, stunts, whatever, kind of inside of all those groups, right? So we can really kind of, then have done our work before we got to that moment. All right. So when we get into the moment where we got the ball in the, in between the 30 and the 50, right? And they come out in 11 personnel, it's second and medium, middle of the drive, right? We've kind of got 4 or 5 kind of go-to calls. And I think that's where you start with your game plan. And then as the game goes on, I don't want to say that that's all out the window, But as the game goes on, you're going to have a feel for what they're doing, what you want to do, what you did last time, what works, and you'll adjust your calls kind of based on that. But you start out with, a whole lot of homework. You spend a lot of time doing this. And I never forget, like, I went to Hawaii for my honeymoon.
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever been to Hawaii?
No.
It's amazing. All right. So it's amazing. We went to Maui and Kauai, but when we were on Maui, right, so one of the things that you have to do this road to Hana. All right. Okay. And it's like, all right, the road to Hana. All right. Now you go on the road to Hana and you're going to go past all this amazing rainforest and like just cool views, waterfalls. I mean, it's an absolutely gorgeous ride. Mm-hmm. And then, and it's right through, like it's on one end of the island, and Maui's kind of like a figure 8-ish, right? So most of the population's on the one circle. The other circle, really little population, but on the end of the other circle, the smaller circle, it is Hana.
Okay. So
you drive through all of Maui, right, and you end up in Hana. And when you get to Hana, there's not much there. And the road to Hana is the road. It's the journey, right?
Okay.
It's the journey. So like you're going to experience this amazing journey. So when we do our game plan, right, we're going to call those plays maybe early in the game, but really what it's doing for us is the journey of like kind of going through the process of what you're at in each situation, what they like, what we like, and you go through this exercise, this journey, mm-hmm. and that's the plan. It's the journey. And then when you get into the game, then you're calling the plays. But it's the road. I don't know if that made sense.
That made sense. It made sense. It's a different way. I think there's a lot of people out there that will be able to understand that it's the journey of the game and not just, hey, I need to match a pass play with a patch coverage.
Yeah, well, it's the journey of kind of planning that out, right? So you're pulling out like all these situations, right? And so we really, technology is great, right? We didn't always have that.
Yeah.
So I told you I used to write this on cards, right? And so we used to have to look at the cards, and this is true. Wow, man, my man Tony, he would take those cards and you do a game, and it'd be like, all right, we played like Ferrum, right? And he'd take the marker and he'd color it on the end all green, and then we play Hampton Sydney, right? And you color those all red, right? Whatever for every game. And so that's how you can figure out what game they were, right? And you put them all in this binder, right? And then he mix them up and get it. But now, so Huddle does this all for us. We don't have to do any of that now, right? It pulls out all those different scenarios. So we pull those out, right? We look at them and we kind of figure it out. But the journey helps you kind of understand maybe what you like, what you and what you don't like. But you're doing that as a staff, right? And it's a collaboration, and you're figuring out kind of the things that you think will be good, and hopefully you're right.
So now I got to ask you, 2013 comes along, you decide Marietta is the place to go. That year you guys go 1-9, and from that point on the wins increase year in, year out, year in, year out. Then we get to, I believe it's 17, 18, 19, 20 winning seasons. 20, that goofy, everybody had those 5 games or whatever you got to play for COVID, and 21, not so much last year, that back up to the winning. How have you turned Marietta around?
Yeah, well, I mean, 21 is kind of a crazy year because, if you really look at that season, there are 4 games where we are literally one play away. And John Carroll beats us by 9. So people say that one's whatever. We had the ball at the 2-yard line, and we had a bad snap, right? With 3 minutes left to go in the game, we were down by 2. We had the ball at the 3-yard line, and we had a bad snap. And anyway, they get the ball back, right? And we intercept it. We go back, get the ball in the red zone, and a ball bounces off our kids' hands, and they intercept it and go score touchdown with like 15 seconds left to go in the game. And so they beat us by 9, but man, that was a 1-play game, right?
Yeah.
So we were 4 plays away from being an 8-win football team. It's just, the ball bounces funny. We didn't win any of the close ones that year. So that's maybe a negative on me as a coach, right? Maybe it's just the bad luck. I don't know, but how do we change it? It's a good question, right? And we won 1 game my first year, right? But they were 0-10 the year before. So we got better. It was tough, right? We got better. I can't tell you exactly one thing. Other than I can tell you, like, everything changed for us, I think, in 2016. We didn't have an amazing year in 2016. We didn't have a winning record or anything like that. We had 60-some guys on the team.
Yeah.
That's tough, brother. I mean, like, that's tough. And the OAC football where, I'll never forget, we played Heidelberg, and we dressed 54 guys. 54. And they came marching down their hill, and I had one of my assistant coaches count them, right? And I think they had like 140-some guys dressed, not on their team dressed. We had 54 dressed. And in the first half, we lost 2 offensive linemen. We did not have another offensive lineman to put in the game. We were playing our last guy.
Yeah.
And that was who we had, right? And you play 11. And we didn't have anybody on the bench that could go in and play offensive line. We would have to pull a defensive lineman over. And our running back had 268 yards. And I learned then, man, like, it's not about the number of guys that you have. It's about who you have. And we had some right guys. And, I think before that, I think I was caught in doing what a lot of people do. And that's just chasing talent, chasing people, right? Whatever. And we got to 2016 and we were kind of like, hey, listen, what we're doing it's not working at a good enough level. And it works for a lot of people, man. It works. I mean, a lot of schools out there in our conference, have 200 or 180 guys, close to 200 guys on the roster, right? There's several schools that will have, 150 plus guys when they report to camp. And we're not one of those. Yeah. We just don't carry as big a roster as some other people do. But I really feel like it's about having the right people in your huddle and having people that are willing to fight and kind of be all in. And I think if you're going to go get in a fight, right, Carlo, it's been a long time since I've been in a fight, and I don't have any desire to go get in one now, right? But there are a few things that I would fight for, right? And I think if you want to be truthful, I'm an old guy right now, so like, it better be something pretty special for me to go fight for, right? And if it's going to be something that I've invested in, it's going to be something that I care about, something that I love, right? So I want our guys to kind of have that mindset of, hey, we're going to go get in a fight, man. So you better care about this. You better love this. And you better care about the people that you're in this with, because we're going to battle and there's not going to be any guarantees. But your asses better be all in. Yeah. And so we kind of try to live that mindset. We kind of want to have that ideal. It's an acronym from there about being fearless, intense, having grit, heart, and being some tough sons of bitches, right? So we want to kind of embody that. And I think that 2016 team, we didn't have a winning record. We weren't an awesome football team, but I think our guys embodied that. And I really learned that, man, there is such a thing. I know this is crazy, right? I'm at a school. We got a bunch of engineers. I got guys getting $40,000, $140,000 jobs, whatever, right out of school. And it doesn't make any sense, but sometimes there's addition by subtraction. And you get the right people in the room with you, and people that are ready to go fight, and you're going to be all right. You're going to hang tough.
Now, Coach, you brought up the OAC, and we've interviewed a lot of the coaches through the conference. The sentiment from the coaches is that the OAC and let me make sure I get this right. The OAC is the SEC of Division III. Do you agree? Ooh, we added another one to that.
Say it again. What?
The quote has been floating around that the OAC is the SEC of Division III. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I think maybe the SEC is the OAC of Division I.
Okay.
You know, so I don't know. I'm not trying to take a back seat to anybody. But I don't know, man. Listen, it's awesome football. And it's awesome football. They're great coaches in the conference. They're amazing players in the conference, a bunch of really good people. And I think we all take pride in what we do. And so obviously, I think it's a really high quality league, a bunch of people that are passionate about the league. And yeah, I mean, I don't think we take a back seat to anybody in Division III football. I think that, you can line us up 1 through 10 and we do quite well.
Now, I have to ask you, as a Bethany alumni, where does the Bethany Marietta opening of the season scrimmage come? How did that all, and why did you continue that? Because I know that that's really the first other team that we saw out of camp was you guys. And I believe that has continued through your coaching, through your time at Marietta.
No, we're not doing it anymore. No. So we that a couple years ago. I think that current staff at Bethany's doing a great job. I have a lot of respect for Coach Garvey, but it just was not a mutually good game. I mean, at the end of it, when we started out, like, holy cow, we got our teeth kicked in my first year by Bethany. And then the next year, this is true. The next year we won 2-0. How's that happen, right? 2-0. And then from that point in time, the
pendulum
game
switched.
It's gotten really lopsided. And we next year we're opening up with Westminster, or not opening up. We're scrimmaging them. That's a great team, man. Coach Benzel also coached at Wittenberg. So, Coach Benzel, we didn't coach together. I actually took Coach Benzel's job. But a lot of respect for him, man. Holy cow. That's a great team and a great program. And so we're gonna scrimmage with those guys. And, but I think that it happened just location wise. And I think that the new coach here has done a great job and will continue to do a great job, and excited for him and what he's going to do at Bethany. He did a great job at BW, so I'm sure that he'll raise that program. But it was just time for us to get to a change, and so we haven't played them for the past couple of years, but we played them for a long time. I said we started out, Bethany kind of put it to us second year, we won 2-0, and then just proceededly we got better. I think we were getting better at a time where they were descending, and so
I can from firsthand, being the guy that called those games, there was a peak and then it kind of leveled out, I would say descended is probably
at the peak. I mean, I would guess, I don't know this, probably around that 2011,
2012, Mac Grimard being the Massachusetts Gatorade Player of the Year and finding his way to the backwoods of Brooke County, West Virginia.
Yeah,
but Coach, so these questions coming up, it's a rapid fire. They have nothing to do with football. They're all about you.
All right.
If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
Holy cow. Well, I mentioned I went to Hawaii, right? Man. So Hawaii was amazing. Always would be on my list. It truly is an island, though. So I don't know how I do with the island effect. Man, honestly, this is gonna sound crazy, Carlo. We love living in Marietta. It's an amazing town. Probably, if I were going to tell you one thing that has way exceeded my expectations.
Okay.
That is living in Marietta, Ohio. And it's a really cool town. We got a great little downtown. It's a real community. And I don't know that you get that everywhere. where it's a true community. I think
Yeah.
a lot of times you're in a big city and there's a lot going on, but everybody's kind of crossing paths and looking out for themselves. And here we're kind of all going the same direction. We're looking out for each other, and that's pretty cool. We got great restaurants. We got a great live music scene. We got the river, which is pretty awesome. So we like living here. My wife might say Leesburg, Ohio, which is her hometown, but a lot of awesome places. You know, it's not about the oceans or the weather or the mountains. It's about the people, and we just want to surround ourselves with great people. And I think that we've had the opportunity to do that here. Now, I will say this: eventually, when I get older, right, and retire, I could see living someplace warm in January, February, March, maybe part of April, and then enjoy the rest of my time around the good people.
So, where did you meet your wife?
Oh, we were in Columbus. So, my wife was at a bachelorette party, and I was at a birthday party, and we were in Columbus, downtown. We had friends that knew each other, and we're talking. And next thing you know, my wife and I crossed paths, and man, the night I met my wife, I knew I was going to marry her. Or I knew I wanted to marry her. I wasn't sure that she wanted to marry me, but I knew that she was an amazing woman, and a woman that you don't meet every day, and was a really special person. And we had a lot in common, and a whole lot in common. And it's been a great marriage, great relationship, and couldn't ask to do life with a better person.
That's a phenomenal answer, Coach. I just want you to know, if she sees this, that's got to be points, because that was a good answer.
I tell her all the time. So,
what was the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
Oh man, brother, I've learned a lot of lessons. The most important lesson, I think I think that there's so many things that I could go, different avenues that I could go down. I mean, but a lesson that's important to me, and this is as a player, as a coach, and as a mentor for people. It's like, hey, listen, we're all gonna end up moving on from where we are, this team that we're a part of, and whatever that we're doing right now. But while you're here, let's be here and be all in, and don't be kind of looking for the next best thing, but just embrace the journey that you're on right now, and give it everything you got. And at the end, I think you'll be proud about the journey that you've taken and the decisions that you've made.
If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
Brother, I don't know, man. Coaching is all I've ever wanted to do. So, I told you my dad was a farmer, right? And I've got a brother who's a farmer and all that stuff. I can tell you one thing's for sure: I don't think I'd be farming. So,
so that one's off the list.
That was not my passion. So my hobbies, right? I don't have very many hobbies, but I love following the stock market and all that stuff. And at one point in time, I kind of thought maybe I was gonna go into the banking or financial world. So I don't know. I'm probably too old to do that now, but I think had I made that journey when I was 22 years old, right? I think I could be happy doing something like that.
Coach, what's the best compliment you've ever received?
Oh, shoot. My kids tell me they love me every day, and that's pretty amazing. So, I don't know.
That's a good one. But on the other side of that, what's the best insult you've ever received?
Best insult. I don't know. I mean, I get some insults. Sometimes the student bodies can have fun with me. I usually just try to when I was probably that guy when I was young, so I just let it roll off my back. But man, sometimes in the heat of the moment, you want to turn back around and tell those guys from Heidelberg,
I was going to ask.
But,
I heard that student section in particular in your conference can be from their coach, nonetheless.
Hey,
listen, they can be a little brutal.
The guys from Mount Union give it to you too, right? I'll tell you, just whatever. Listen, you can't. The lion doesn't care what the sheep says, brother. Just keep being a lion. And those people in the stands, those people on the sidelines, they're all sheep. So
I like that.
We just try to let it roll off our back.
And then the final question, I've ended every show this way. Coach, was there a question that you were expecting me to ask you? And if so, how would you have answered it?
Yeah. So I listened to one of these before. So before I got on this, I listened to actually I listened to a couple of 1.5 or so, right? And you asked, who would you sit down for dinner with, right? And so honestly, man, I just kind of racked my brain about that. I didn't have a great answer. I have got some awesome people in my life, some awesome people that I've got to have dinner with. But the one I think that probably I would have started with. I'm a man of faith, and I think try to start my day every day with a short time in prayer, and try to find some time there. And so I think anything that I could do with any of the characters in the Bible, particularly Jesus Christ or the apostle Paul, Peter, any of those guys, right? Mary, I mean, just wow, right? So I went on a faith-based journey. It was like the walk to Emmaus, right? Just this past off season, and the walk to Emmaus is about two people kind of walking beside Jesus Christ and not knowing who he was, and then eventually kind of having their eyes turned to, hey, listen, we're actually walking with Jesus of Nazareth, right? And I think when I went through that, it's wow, there are so many awesome people that you could go on a walk with. I think those people would be certainly one, and continue to pray that I do their will. All right. And I think in going through that, I think that we all have, an opportunity to do our own part, right? You have your part, I have my part, right? I think you start your thing. We all have a story to tell, and I get to tell it to 120 guys every year, and I realize some of those people aren't ready for the messages that I want to give them, and I'm about football. I don't want to make it anything more than that. I'm about football, but I hope along the lines, there are a few people that I may be introduced to those people. And if I could have the opportunity to sit down with one of those people, that'd be amazing. I think Dr. Martin Luther King would be amazing. Bear Bryant would be amazing. Bo Schembecker would be amazing. Woody Hayes would be amazing. But a lot of great people. So I thought that one might come, but it didn't come.
So we've gone to the 5 questions at the end to float out the food question, because when we go to this next segment here at the end, I asked my girlfriend, who's also the editor and who's the co-host of the next segment, hey, 3 people that you want to, now, mind you, she graduated with a history degree.
Right.
So the original question was, if you could sit down with any 3 historical figures, who would you sit down with? So we went through 4 or 5 episodes of her staring back at the camera. I don't know. I didn't think about it. I didn't, blah, blah, blah. So I started asking the coaches, thinking that would lead into it. No, and it's a very testy subject. So
she's not giving you anybody.
She's not sitting down with anyone.
Major. She's a history major, right? Does she have a passion? It's history. Like what part of history does she like?
American history. So I was assuming I would get
George Washington, Abraham Lincoln,
Jefferson, Adams, any of the 44 of those guys that sat in the White House. So
Bill Clinton. I mean, Barack Obama, George Bush, Donald Trump. Well, pick your poison, whatever you want to do, right?
All right. Well, for those of you at home that know that this next segment, when she sees this ending here, it's going to be quite interesting for me. Coach, thank you very much for taking the time to sit down with us today. Best of luck this season. You might see us floating around out there in Marietta. We're picking 10 games.
Marietta's got like probably one of the best game day atmospheres that you're going to go to. So we have a cannon and a great student section, and I think that we've been rated the best game day atmosphere in the OAC in the past. So come out to Marietta, check it out, and see what you think.
We might have to do that. That might be, as I said, we're going to 10 games this year. The OAC and the PAC obviously a little bit closer to my location, so it'll be easier to get to a couple OAC PAC games. And then we're going to try to do Empire 8, MAC, the NCAC. There's a couple conferences we're incorporating into this. But Coach, again, thank you very much for joining us. Best of luck next year. And we will see you in about 2 minutes over there at the editorial with Serenity Brown, Chuckleheads. What's going on, Chuckleheads? Welcome back to Overtime with Serenity Brown. That's Serenity Brown. I am Carlo Guadagnino. We just finished with Coach Waddle from Marietta. It was a long talk. What'd you think?
Yeah. Right off rip though, you missed fact. Yeah. You just straight up didn't read your notes right.
This is what happens when you can't read your own writing sometimes. So I predated him. I gave him 4 extra. He got 8 years of college instead of 4. So, no, it was a good conversation. I think it's interesting that the trajectory that Marietta's on, and in that conference, it's, as we've taught with the other coaches that we've talked to, it's kind of a dog week in and week out. So
there's also no need to absolutely roast me at the end there.
I think it was
rude.
I think it was appropriate.
I don't think so.
Was it regarding your history degree?
Doesn't matter what it's regarding to.
Was it pertaining to the history degree?
Anything.
I mean, he made fun of himself for his sociology degree. So, for those of you watching at home on YouTube, really appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, wherever else you get your podcasts, make sure you hit the little bell notification, or I don't know what it is on Apple, to be honest. I don't. But make sure you do that. Follow us on the social medias, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. The only one that's different is Instagram. It's Dingo_Talk. I believe our 3 is fast food restaurants, right?
I think so.
You want to go first?
Sure.
You don't have to put
Don't
in
judge
any particular
me.
order.
Yeah, they're not gonna be in order. Don't judge me. Arby's, KFC, Wendy's.
Okay.
Rude.
There's just so much to unpack there, but if that's the route we're going, I guess I'll go Long John Silver.
Gross.
I
don't think you've ever
The-
Long John Silver's.
The chicken is better than cows. That one.
Chick-fil-A?
Yeah, that place. Not open on Sundays, so they're a little sketch there, but and Chipotle.
Chipotle is my life.
I thought we were just going with random, because you just threw random.
I didn't.
You did.
I didn't.
Arby's is the only one that I will give you is worth it. KFC is...
I love KFC. Their mashed potatoes are the best.
Popeyes is better than KFC.
Popeyes is not. I've had
Popeyes is better
Popeyes
than
twice,
KFC.
and both times it sucked.
You also can't eat Chipotle, so...
Yeah, it did make mistakes.
It did, in fact. I told you guys last week we were going to have a surprise, and we do have a surprise. So I'll let her tell the rest of that.
There's not much to tell. All I gotta do is show it.
Yeah,
right?
there you go. Right?
Yeah.
So now, I bought myself, what did we discuss earlier today? 2.5 years now. And the 5-year plan will be part of the whole thing. All right. 5-year plan, folks. That's how you space things out. It's positive. Next week we come back. We're going to a completely different conference. We're going to be moving on to the ODAC, and it's a different conference than different area, I guess I should say, than what we have covered in the past, and obviously a team that is on a turnaround here from, I guess, as I say in the intro in next week's episode. Go from 4-6 to 9-2. You did something right. So, you got anything left? Few words from this one. All right. Well, we'll catch you next week, Chuckleheads.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.